Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into this AFC Championship edition of Shark and the Dog. What a game last week. Ravens, Pats. You couldn't ask for a better performance from both teams. One of the best playoff games I've seen in my lifetime. I have been sick all week. I wanted to get this episode up Monday, Tuesday. Matt Kovach, Dave Nardella, got takes from both of them. They sent them to me. I was hounding them for those takes. They sent them to me right away, and then I dropped the ball. So my fault, but this is prerequisite material for this Colts-Pats game coming up Sunday night at 6:40. So let's talk a little Pats-Ravens. Then I'm going to let Dave play his, and then I'm going to talk a little, and then I'll play Matt Kovach's. We'll go from there, and I'll try and throw some things in my opinion. But Pats-Ravens. I'll say this, and you can say it's a bold statement, whatever. That was the greatest Patriots game I've ever been able to soak in, because when the Pats were winning Super Bowls back in the day in the 01 through 04 era, I was like 12 years old. You know, your life is just awesome as a 12-year-old. You can't, you're like, of course we're winning Super Bowls. Everything is awesome right now. So you can't make any sense of it, really. You're not paying attention as much as you would as a 23-year-old. So the other night, I didn't miss a single down. We had everything figured out. We were in Dave's basement. There was about 15 of us. We had every tailgate food you needed. We had the surround sound, the big screen. It was perfect. And I love games with turmoil. I love coming back and being down 14-0 and then 28-14. It was just unbelievable. And the ending, it took until about Tuesday to come down. And that's from that game. I was still buzzing from that victory. The next morning when I went into Dunkin' Donuts, I wanted to high-five everyone in there, but had to restrain myself. It was just, I was on cloud nine from that victory. And then I got sick. So I'm back and got some great takes from both Dave Nardella, Matt Kovach. I'll talk about a couple things I noticed from the game. A couple things I noticed. I was wrong on everything I said. I said LeGarrette Blount would be the player of the game. He had 1 yard. He had like 4 carries for 1 yard. Just a pitiful performance. He was just good, and he didn't even really get a chance to get back to it in the second half. He got stuffed at the line every time, and then they said, you know what, we're just going to start passing the ball because you suck right now. Same goes for the rest of the running game. Best rushing player for the Pats was Tom Brady with that rushing touchdown. So that's what happened. One thing that I forgot to talk about in last week's episode that was at the top of my notes for the episode was watch out for Danny Amendola. And I didn't mention it. And now you can say, oh, of course you were going to say that, John. The guy who had his biggest breakout game of his career. Yeah, of course you're going to say that. I was. Ask Matt Kovach, ask John Nardella. I said it. I said Bill's got something up his sleeve. Watch out for some trickery with Danny Amendola. And what happens? But, at least I got to throw in my little tidbit about LeGarrette Blount being the player of the game. Idiot. So, yeah, it was everyone came to play in that game, except the defense, except our strong suit this season. Revis, he didn't look great. I'll say after the first quarter, he was getting beat. And so after the first quarter, he looked a little better, but the armbar wasn't. You could make a case for it being a penalty, but not in that situation. It really changed the game, and just like that Des Bryant catch, when you're a ref, you don't want the game to be about you. Let it be about the players. If we lost that game, we would have been saying, oh, it's because of a couple calls. And the Ravens lost the game, and they were blaming it on the Patriots making a couple legal plays and ineligible receivers and stuff like that. You can see the refs pointing it out. I'm not just being a Pats fan here. There was nothing really to cry about there. Sort of like when Bill was crying about the Wes Welker hit last season after the AFC Championship game. You can't make a huge argument there. It happened. Get over it. So, yeah, breakout game for Danny Amendola. Julian Edelman's solid performance. Why is Gronk getting open? He got open a couple times, just right down the field, got some serious yardage, the touchdown, everything. Like and I think I feel like the Colts are going to overcompensate for that. They're just going to lock up Rob Gronkowski, and then they're going to forget that the Patriots have a bunch of other receivers. And same thing goes for this week with my watch out for this, watch out for that. I could see Tim Wright having a decent game. We haven't used him in weeks. Everyone's forgotten about him. That happened throughout the season where no one was worried about Tim Wright, and then Tom Brady throws 1-2 touchdowns to him, and it's a total game changer. So the Colts are a good football team. They've got some decent weapons. I love T.Y. Hilton. Andrew Luck is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's quite ready for this stage. I'm not going to go ahead and say the Pats have this locked up. And there's so much room for error in 60 minutes of football, it's not even funny. There's so much room for error in the first 60 seconds of a football game that I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here. I don't even want to give a score prediction because mine are just so far off every friggin' time. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with the Pats victory by 10 points. Let's say it's, I'll say 38-28. Andrew Luck puts up a bunch of points, but he also has some stupid interceptions in the game. We'll say it's he's similar to last week. We'll say he has 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he gets them all when the clock's running out at the end of the game. But I'll say this: I would not be shocked if this was a strong 4-quarter game and they really tested us, and we could use a test. But man, you have to love that game last week. That was just unbelievable. So I'm gonna let Dave go here. I'm gonna play his bit, and then I'm gonna go off of his, and then I'll go into Kovach's. Then I'll talk a little more, and enjoy.
Hello, New England. You got what you want this past Saturday night in the Patriots win versus the big rival in the Baltimore Ravens. Unbelievable game. The dog and I were watching together, and those games in the early 2000s, 2001, 2003, and 04, those games, you'd play Pittsburgh, AFC title game, and some of the Oakland game. All those games were excellent games, but I was maybe 12, 11 years old. This was the real first game in a long time where I've seen as a true New England Patriots fan. This was the best game I've seen. It had everything. It had the trick plays. It had, no rushing yards by New England. Literally none. We got to see Tom Brady throw the ball over 50 times. And it was just so vintage Brady that how could you not love to watch that game? That was unbelievable. Just a quick breakdown, then I'm going to run into the preview of Indy. Just a quick breakdown of this game. So, early on, Flacco was just tearing up the Patriots. I think he started off 10 for 10, 2 touchdowns. Something ridiculous like that. And it was just like, okay, here we go. This is the reality of the team this year. Came back from all that. Can't say it's a good season, but good effort. One of those games. But this is what I love about the Pats. They just keep coming back at you. And that's been a theme of this year's team. Just keep punching back. And that was unreal. Just 14 points, and then 14 points coming back. It was great. 14-14. Brady with that interception at the end of the second half was tough. That was not good, especially because Baltimore capitalized on it, and our defense struggled all game with Flacco, and going down 7 into the half, didn't really know what to expect. Came out in the second half, defense, a little bend not break, only allowed 10 points, which is great. If we let up 10 points a half against Indy, I think we can wrap that one up. So defense much better in the second half. I don't know what halftime adjustments there were, but this was a true excellent coaching performance by the New England Patriots coaching staff. All up and down. We didn't run the ball. That was one of my key takes. If we had lost that game, and we'd given up in the run so early. I'd be pounding the Pats for not, and McDaniels especially for not running the ball. But we went into halftime, came out, Belichick with that trick play. That really got the stadium going, got the team going. To run a play like that, there has to be so much trust. And not only the players that are, conducting the play, but it's also the offensive line, which guys are ineligible, which guys are eligible receivers, which has, been a huge topic of discussion over the past couple days. That it was just, perfectly executed. It was unbelievable. I've never felt that good in a long time. And the dog will probably feel me in the same way on that play. Defense stepped up when it needed to. When was the last time, you saw a play like that by Duron Harmon just going up for the ball, taking, it was a very easy interception. But that was something we haven't seen in a while, and that was the defense responding to a test, which was unbelievable. That's pretty much my analysis on the Ravens game. Obviously, going into Indy's coming here this week. It's going to be a great game. In my opinion, a lot of people are overthinking this game. I feel better than I did against the Ravens, even though I tried to rally everyone saying, the Pats are the best team or the number one seed for a reason. But now you're in a championship game. Throw everything out the window. Execution at every stage of the game, offense, defense, special teams, needs to happen. And I think the Patriots, more veterans, obviously, Luck is a young playmaker over there, but I just don't think they have enough weapons to win this game. Keys to the game, obviously, I'm going to go back to the offensive line. Without Brian Stork, you're going to have to adjust again. I thought the offensive line did great last game. And I don't think the Colts have the best defense, especially the rush defense, which is why this will show a good coaching performance if we can run the ball this week. The Colts defense is absolutely horrendous against the run. I think, it's something we can't give up on early because they did do pretty well against the run yesterday. And another thing that the Colts have that the Ravens did not, they have more weapons. They not only have T.Y. Hilton, but they have, Hakeem Nicks and Reggie Wayne, two excellent veterans. And you got a guy like Dante Moncrief, Colby Fleener. Those guys can make plays. So it's going to be another test for the defense. But if they can do what they did in the second half, 10 points a half, I think it could be a good win for the Patriots here. And if Brady keeps playing like he did last game, I think this game should be, knock on wood, an easy win for the Patriots. And then, who knows what's going to happen in the NFC. That's going to be another great game. But the keys to the game, offensive line play and consistent defense play, 10 points a half is what I'm aiming for. I'm predicting 31-20 victory in Foxborough. Let's go, Pats. Keep the intensity up this week, and hopefully we'll be talking about this next week as well. Shark is signing off. Go, Pats.
Real solid stuff there from our buddy Dave Nardella. Great take. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was Gillette Stadium. This is a stadium that it's not revered up there with Arrowhead Stadium and or even Seattle's 12th man field out there. And so it all open space, not a lot of noise. It kind of gets trashed by opponents. They were saying that it was one of the craziest crowds they've ever seen in the, I think it's 14 years of its existence. Just amazing stuff from the fan base, and that was a game where you could make a lot of noise. Every play mattered, and the fans had a lot to do with that victory, and we could have fallen off the wagon so many times. Imagine if the score ever got to a 3-score deficit. We would have been screwed, but we hung in there, and Brady kept his cool except for that interception. Oh my God. Going back to that last Colts game earlier in the season, end of the half, Brady throws a terrible pick. Colts come down and score. They're back in the game. We could have buried them. And we ended up winning by 20. Something like that. We killed them. But still, if he throws a pick in this game, it better be off of someone's fingers where it's not his fault, because these stupid picks where you're saying, what are you doing? We can't have that. You're too experienced. You're too smart. And, that can't happen. Another thing is, going into that game, I'm a huge Brady skeptic. What Kovach was saying, he can't believe the amount of confidence, how it's gone down among Patriots fans, where they go into games like that last week, where you're playing a 6-seed Ravens team and you're scared of them. I know we have a history with them, but you would never get scared of a team like that 10 years ago with your Rodney Harrisons and your Ty Laws. It just wouldn't happen. So before I get to Kovach's, one thing I want to talk about is McDaniels. I can't believe that you came out of that game and everyone's talking about McDaniels. I've never seen that. He had a hell of a game. Just great play calling. And that trick play, it's so easy for me to say I know nothing about football, the whole analytics and everything like that. But man, was that just perfect timing? They just caught him completely off guard, and they had that in their back pocket from 2001. That they ran that same play with David Patton to Troy Brown. They were saying that in the post game, and that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, they haven't done that in 14 years, and it worked perfectly. Just an awesome play call. I loved it. So I'm gonna get to Matt Kovach's take right here. Stay tuned. It's a great 10 minutes of material. He's firing on all cylinders, and then I'll wrap it up with a couple thoughts, taking you into the weekend. And so here he is. Enjoy.
Gentlemen, back in the AFC Championship game. Absolutely incredible. Before we can begin talking about Indianapolis, let's talk about Baltimore here. A couple of quick points. The quintessential Tom Brady playoff game, and a performance that really summarized what he has meant to this team in the second half of his career. We know about the 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, but in the second half of Brady's career in New England, he has absolutely had to carry the team at times on his shoulders, and sometimes by force of will alone. The defense, which had been, and we'll talk about this more a little bit later, but the defense, which had been good all season long, absolutely betrayed the offense on Saturday. The defense looked absolutely terrible, and it certainly could have easily been confused with the Swiss cheese units that you've seen in 2010 and 2011 and 12 and so on here recently. But what Brady did was absolutely remarkable on an enormous stage against a hated rival that certainly knows how to, play him well. Phenomenal. The second most exciting non-Super Bowl Patriots playoff game of all time. I don't think that can be debated. Probably trailing only, obviously, the Oakland Snow playoff game from January 2002. So one of the interesting notes in all the coverage I read about the Ravens game was what Peter King wrote after about the being at Gillette during the Amendola Edelman touchdown connection play. And he said that when Amendola caught the touchdown from Edelman, the stadium rocked so loud that it shook, and it was the loudest he'd ever heard Gillette Stadium in 13 years. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit from Peter King. Kind of shows you what we've talked about here recently, some of the urgency that is surrounding this team right now. There is an absolute urgency in the fan base of the New England Patriots. So just a phenomenal game, but obviously, as much as you can get caught up in Brady's performance, you cannot get or allow the performance of the defense to be lost upon you. And certainly, this was a defense that was so ballyhooed throughout the course of the season. I was one to always tell people to kind of exhibit a little bit of caution, because I just wasn't sure, obviously, about the run defense, and without a genuine thumper in the back end of that secondary, I don't know, I get concerned. I love Devin McCourty as a cover guy, but the point is that that defense that you saw out there on Saturday is certainly not going to cut it against Indianapolis, and it is absolutely not going to cut it if you happen to sneak by Indianapolis and walk into the Super Bowl. So as we get ready and, kind of transition into talking about the Colts game here, what you've seen, and Ron Borges has kind of talked about it all year. He's been, one of the driving force people. But what you saw on Saturday and what you've seen recently is just an ability to run the ball consistently against the Patriots and move the ball on the ground. That is not good, considering that, again, even if you're able to sneak by Indianapolis, you're going to run into either Eddie Lacy or Marshawn Lynch, and obviously both of those teams are going to love the luxury of being able to hand it off and watch their back, work 4 or 5 yards of crack like Justin Forsett did. I mean, I cannot imagine what Marshawn Lynch and Eddie Lacy would do against the Patriots' run defense right now, which has just been very, very vanilla. And, this is also a unit by and large, too. I heard some other people, Tommy Curran had mentioned this as well, said that maybe there was a 2-week layoff that caused the Patriots' defensive coaches, maybe Patricia and Belichick, to put in some wrinkles that were, maybe a little bit too creative. Again, I'm not sure I'm buying that. I think that Baltimore just came out with a good game plan, and I think you've seen some other teams here over the last month of the season really be able to move the ball and move it consistently and move it when they want to move it against the Patriots. So that's certainly going to be something to bear notice to against Indianapolis here on Sunday evening. Obviously, Indianapolis is certainly a team that the Patriots want to see here, but just because they are, a favorable matchup in terms of the remaining playoff teams, certainly does not mean that it's going to be a walk in the park. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that I absolutely did not want anything, as a fan, to do with Denver in that AFC title game. I don't care what Peyton's health was. Denver's just a much better team than Indianapolis on paper. But in any event, talking about the Colts, clearly you've seen the recent games, including back in 2012 when the Patriots put up 59 against Indianapolis. This is certainly a team that is heavily weighted in their quarterback, and obviously Andrew Luck is as good as any young quarterback in the game. He's a top 10 quarterback right now, and certainly knocking on the door of the top 5, especially now that Peyton looks like he's bowing out of the ring. The point is that even the skill position players on Indianapolis, T.Y. Hilton is a solid player. Hakeem Nicks can get open, and Reggie Wayne is, obviously not what he was 10 years ago. But again, Dan Herron, you're not dealing with overwhelming skill position guys. So you're looking at this team, and you're thinking, hey, this is going to be another cakewalk for the Patriots, and it very may well be, but obviously they cannot come into this game thinking that, because, and I'm here to tell you right now, there have been some conference championship games. Let's take a look over here the last 20 years. Go back to San Diego coming 3,000 miles to play at Three River Stadium and beat the Steelers back in '94. I mean, insane. A huge upset. Coming back, how about 99? The Minnesota Vikings, Randall Cunningham, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, absolutely incredible team at home against Chris Chandler, a perennial backup in the Atlanta Falcons. They blow the NFC Championship game at home, and they're out of the Super Bowl against the Broncos and John Elway. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. How about, again, a couple years after that, 2001 Patriots go to Pittsburgh, double-digit underdogs, lose Tom Brady in the first half of the game, and despite the best efforts of Drew Bledsoe, hung on to beat Pittsburgh in another huge conference championship upset. Another one that the Colts, ironically, were involved in, talking about the Steelers, when the Steelers went to the Super Bowl in '96, Jim Harbaugh and the Colts came to Three Rivers and were one of the closer Hail Marys you'll ever see that didn't get completed to getting completed. one play really away from going to the Super Bowl. So these conference championships these upsets in the conference championship can happen. And, maybe if you're thinking about, okay, playoff upsets, well, that's not going to happen to Tom Brady. Ask John Elway what happened when Tom Coughlin of BC fame at the time took the Jacksonville Jaguars to Mile High Stadium the year before Elway won his first Super Bowl and derailed what I believe was either a 13-3, 14-2 Denver Broncos team. So obviously Mark Brunell, Tom Coughlin, and the expansion Jaguars at that time. So playoff upsets can happen, and obviously, we've seen on both sides in New England what it can be like. So this is obviously a game that the Patriots should win on Sunday. If you're asking for an official prediction, I like the Patriots probably 34-21, 34-24, something like that. Thinking that Indianapolis is going to be able to move it a little bit out there, but they should absolutely win the game. And what you want to see from the Patriots is you want to see them come out and handily win the game. You do not want to see this be a game where they are trailing at halftime and you have to talk about if they've taken this team lightly or anything like that. This is a team that they should beat. This is a team that they will beat. It's a question of how they beat them, almost style points, looking to get a little bit of momentum, obviously, possibly, hopefully, going into Super Sunday. But this is the conference championship week, best week of the season. Obviously, Sunday is the best day of the season, the two big games. We will not even entertain any conversation about what's going on in the Super Bowl and any conversation like that until obviously the AFC is won on Sunday. But if you do want a kind of a window into who to root for, excuse me, if you are a Patriots observer, lover, watcher, you certainly are rooting for the Green Bay Packers. Go Pack, go, and do not want anything to do with the defending champions. But again, don't even want to think about that. Colts are going to be tough on Sunday. Patriots have to take care of business, and they obviously have to do it the right way. So we look forward to it. AFC Championship, incredible.
Just solid stuff there from Matt Kovach, a longtime correspondent out in California. I touched on a lot of stuff, and you can see with Dave, my take, and Kovach's, we're all predicting 10 to 11 point victories here. And I think it's a mix between, it's the in-between of people who think the Colts have a chance and these Patriots fans who think the Colts have zero chance. So still a 2-score victory, but don't count the Colts out. They're not a bad team. They're in the AFC Championship for a reason. So you have to give it up for them there. Before we go, we're closing in on a half hour, so don't want to waste your time with things you've already heard. But the weather, I think it's going to be decent temperature. I think it's supposed to be in the 40s, mid 40s, something like that, but could be possibility. It's supposed to be rain or potentially sleet. And these are the games that the Pats love. And Scott Zolak was on. He was on Toucher and Rich this morning, and ZLX in Boston, talking about how this is a great game for the Pats because they're a good bad weather team, and the offense has all the power in games like this. You can keep the defense on their heels, and you can just sort of blow by them. And so that would be great for running up the score. So another thing to bring up is the scores with the Colts over the last 3 games we've played them, the Andrew Luck era. We've beat them something like 152 to 66. That's ridiculous. That's like us playing the Jaguars 3 straight times, and those are just terrible scores. That averages out to something like 42 to 20. That's just bad. That's real bad. 42-22, whatever. And the keys in those games were LeGarrette Blount and Jonas Gray. And Jonas Gray was out last week, but what kind of role will he play in this game? And who do you go with? Do you go with Blount, who hasn't proven himself this year against the Colts? Or do you go with Jonas Gray, who rushed for 204 touchdowns against the Colts earlier in the season? And the argument there with Gray is, well, anyone could have done it on that given night. You could have given the ball to any back, and they would have rushed for 204 touchdowns. Jonas Gray is not significant just because he was there and they used him that night. So I'd want to stick with the passing game. Mix in a little more running. You don't want to run the same amount as you did against the Ravens because you really gave up on them, and for good reasons. But let's work both. Let's have a good balance. And for the 1,000th time, I'm going to say clock management is important because you don't want to let Andrew Luck, a running, passing quarterback, control the clock on you. Because if you don't have the time to slow the game down and control it yourself, you could be screwed. So that's a big part of it. So running game, a good balance, and using guys like Julian Edelman. And if the score starts to get out of hand, put Gronk in a closet wrapped in bubble wrap because you want to have that guy for the Super Bowl. Think of what we could have done in previous Super Bowls with a healthy Gronkowski. He was a shell of himself in that last Super Bowl against the Giants. We really could have used him. And so yeah, I'll talk real quickly about the Packers-Seahawks. Like Kovach said, as a Patriots fan, you gotta be a Packers fan this weekend because Aaron Rodgers is very limited. He had a good game last week. 3 touchdowns, 304 yards. That's a good performance for a guy that you could see in the game really wanted to bust out and run. How that game would have finished up with the Dez Bryant call, if it went the other way, you never know. I think Aaron Rodgers would have been just fine coming down the field with 3.5, 4 minutes left in the game and been able to score. But hey, they're in the NFC Championship game. We'll see how they play against the Seahawks. I just think the Seahawks are going to swallow them up. And so my prediction is Pats win this game, Seahawks win the NFC Championship, and in a battle, we lose to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. I know against popular belief in this area, that's a bold prediction. But if the Packers were to win, we beat the Packers just because we've seen them. I think we saw their best stuff when we lost to them 26-21 in Week 10 or whatever it was. So this is not a stranger to us. So, and it's not the same Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it will be 2 weeks from now. So yeah, if the Packers win, we take them in the Super Bowl. If the Seahawks win, they're going to give you some serious trouble. And that's about it for this week. Go back and watch the little film on last week's game. Just soak that win in. That throw to LaFell at the end of the game, that was like Brady throwing it into a keyhole from 30 yards away. That was just unbelievable. You couldn't ask for a better victory. I think it was a clean victory. It didn't come down to, oh, we cheated the Ravens. If anything, the Ravens kind of got the best of us with a few calls. So that's that. Just a great rivalry. I love hating that team. Your Steve Smiths, your Terrell Suggs. Oh, aren't they just great to hate? I hope we see them next year. And because this is just becoming an awesome rivalry. Schedule those guys for a Sunday night football game next year in Baltimore. I'll go down there and play them because I love this matchup. Enjoy the game this weekend, everyone. Soak it in. I hope it's gonna be a good game. I don't want the blowout that everyone else is wishing for and predicting. Let's get a good AFC Championship game. Nobody get hurt, and let's go in to the Super Bowl weekend 2 weeks from now against the Seattle Seahawks. For Shark and the Dog, this is John Murphy signing off. Go Pats!